It's time for the Viajante Stogie Roadshow with special guests Dr. Gaby, Kafie, and Alzayani. And here's your host, El Viajante.
Hola, brothers and sisters of the Leaf, and welcome to the Viajante Stogie Roadshow. I am very honored to have two great guys here with us this evening. If you've been keeping up on the times, what's up, Kevin Shahan? Thanks for joining us. If you've been reading a lot of the new press releases that have been coming out recently, and please excuse me, everybody, I'm a little off my A game. I've been sick with the flu the last 4 days, so it's been a rough couple of days. But the Boutique Cigar Association of America. You might have heard me talk about that a couple times on the show, has signed a partnership agreement with FAZCO Alzayani, and this will bring the organization's cigars to the Middle East and to North African markets. So this was released in Half Wheel and several other outlets in the cigar industry, and I'm really proud to say that I have two of the individuals who made this happen. You can hear Dr. Kafie in the background. He's firing up his cigar. Dr. Gaby Kafie of Kafie 1901 Cigars, of Kafie 1901 Coffee, San Geronimo. Dr. Gaby Kafie, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Hey, Kerry. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here. How are you guys?
I'm doing well. And we have...
I'm fine, thank you, Doctor.
We have a new guest tonight, and I'm very honored to have Alzayani on the show tonight. He is the chairman of the board for the FAZCO Alzayani company, and the company was established in 1976, if I'm correct, and they were a part of this signing that that we discussed earlier with the Boutique Cigar Association of America to bring some of the best quality boutique cigars to the Middle East and to the North African markets. And Ali, again, it's such an honor of having you here. Thanks for joining us. Since the folks were hopping on the show,
thank you for having me. The honor is mine. Thank you.
No, thank you. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, Ali. I mean, how did you get involved with the organization, and how did you get to this point where you're looking at bringing some of the finest boutique cigars to your area?
So, as you know, the FAZCO Alzayani company is named after my father, who was the founder. And he was very passionate about the cigar business, something that we've been importing and distributing fine cigars now for 42 years. And mainly, obviously, with the company Habanos SA. So the manufacturers of premium Cuban cigars. So I took over the company after in 2010, and my father actually passed away, so that was so. But I'm a second generation in the business, and today there's a lot of opportunity in this cigar world. A lot of new players, a lot of exciting brands coming onto the scene. And I was always following excitedly the developments. This is our core business. And I came across the association. I admired very much what they stood for, in the sense of, uniting a lot of producers that may not have the multi-million and billion-dollar spend to stand alone, but united. Through the association, I was able to, understand more about this, the boutique market. At the same time, I also saw the mandate of the association, which was to work with the regulators and play a support role for the tobacco industry, especially the boutique players. And I thought, it's a no-brainer for me in the sense that we're also at the time in our business where we want to work with companies that are flexible, that are more easily able to adapt to market trends. The customers are also becoming a lot more sophisticated in our region. So their knowledge of cigar is now developing and becoming more mature. So a lot of my customers are inquiring about certain brands that may not have representation in the region. So I thought to be, the best way to do it is let's reach out. And I pretty much picked up the phone and, asked after Dr. Kafie and was lucky enough to get a hold of him. And I think within 24 hours, I was on a flight to Miami. The rest is history, as they say. So, but we had, obviously the opportunity to meet and long conversations about the future of the industry. We are importers, distributors, and retailers. And at the moment, I said, what a great partner would the association be to help us and help us with the awareness of the different players. So that's what brought us to the announcement, really, and we're very honored to be here. I have full faith in our partner, the association, and Dr. Kafie himself. We've also personally developed a friendship, with many conversations and many cigars been smoked between us, and some wine as well, So, yes, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you again.
That's great. Now, talking about bringing sophistication and a new brand of cigars, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Kafie. Doc, so walk me through a little bit about when you first received the call and your process of these discussions and leading up to the eventual meeting.
Well, you know something, Ali, first of all, man, congratulations. Excellent introduction. You really highlighted some really important key points about what the vision is of our partnership with the Boutique Cigar Association. Carrie, thanks for being a great mediator and allowing us this platform to really kind of debut what is to come in the future. One thing I told Ali prior to on our first meeting is the Boutique Cigar Association was really established the first 2 years as let's say a reference center. We wanted boutique cigar companies, owners, and not just factory owners, but brand owners, and people that were in need of assistance in navigating the FDA the first couple of years to kind of have a resource center. Now, look, I don't know as much as the FDA attorneys. I probably never will, as much as I like to read. But, one of the things being a doctor is you kind of learn where to find information and how to solve problems. That's what we're taught. That's part of our whole education. So the first 2 years were very successful because every boutique cigar company that is part of the BCAA has made it through year 1, year 2, and year 3, which we're now entering. Everybody's registered, their companies, all their products, all the ingredients, everybody's compliant. We've all submitted our warning label plans. So I think that was a huge success. It was a lot of mixed emotions throughout the process, but, we kind of got through it. Year 3 for me was really geared towards entering, I think, the global marketplace. I really, when I went to Intertobacco in Germany last year, I got exposed to the European market, and it was a reality check. I've always known, my family comes from a business background. I've known that obviously as powerful as the U.S. is in business and commerce, I'll tell you what, there's 8 billion people on this planet, and it's in this day and age, it's very difficult to limit your products to just one part of the world. You have to kind of go beyond, especially if you're going to have a successful brand. I've never known of many brands that are successful just in a niche region. You've got to go and reach new territories. And ironically, it seems like whatever I was thinking at the time and the energy I was giving off resulted in this phone call from Ali. It was like the planets lined up. That's the way I see it. And we spoke. His interest completely was in the Boutique Cigar Association. His fascination was the fact that we're representing family-owned cigar companies. People, when you say family-owned, oh my God, it's like each one of us, we do everything, We're there during selection of tobacco, blending, even sometimes things as simple as putting on cigar bands, packaging, making sure the shipments go out fine. We don't work in an office where everything is remote control. We're kind of in the pit. And I think that's what Ali found interesting is that, here are several companies that he found appealing. And I think this triggered his trip to come out here and really see firsthand what's going on,
Definitely, yeah. And to be honest, it's something admirable, and to be able to see people who are involved from the top down. One of the the lessons I learned from a person greatly admired in business was a client of mine many years ago. And I asked him, he's a multi-billionaire, very accomplished person, and I asked him, sir, what is the secret to your success? He said, Ali, personal involvement. That's the most important factor. And I see it time and time again, whenever you go into a business where the owners, the founders are involved in the daily operation, at least at the supervisionary level, it makes a big difference, Another thing is that, we have to give always respect to the big brands and the big players, that are operational already on a global level. But there's a lot to say about flexibility and being able to, myself as an importer and distributor and retailer, to be able to work with owners of brands, owners of factories, who are able to be more flexible, on many different levels, whether it's pricing, whether it's quality, whether it's packaging, this is really a critical thing for our industry at the moment. And, the regulations are only getting more and more tougher. They're scrutinizing more and more. The taxes are going up and up. And, sometimes with the very big corporations, the difficulty is in being able to support you in your individual market and territories. They have a global approach. So, as much as they have done a wonderful job in terms of making the cigar a global culture, I think it's time now for the boutique players who are able to be a lot more accommodating, a lot more flexible, a lot more in tune with the customer. I think this is the time, and that's why I'm here.
And that's a great point, because I know I've known Gaby for a few years, and being involved in the Boutique Cigar Association of America, but then also in my travels in traveling in the United States and visiting the various cigar shops. The one thing I have grown to love that really has guided me in that path of the support of the boutique cigar business is that personal one-on-one friendship, ownership, and also the ability to reach out and speak to owners, to be able to have that one-on-one conversation. I mean, yes. Whether it's Gaby Kafie or Dave Cribben hopped on from 50 Cal. There's a question, you could pick up the phone and you can speak to the owners. if you're a cigar shop, you probably have gotten your shipment order from Gaby Kafie, who packed it himself. I mean,
Yeah.
that speaks volumes to that really speaks volumes to that personal touch and that love of what they do. And I've always appreciated that, and that's I think this is going to be a great thing. And I know, Ali, you had mentioned one of your quotes that this is going to be a great opportunity and be a new world offerings. I mean, and I think you spoke to how this boutique companies are going to be able to expand out and to be able to reach new areas. Maybe you and Gaby could speak to what are the building blocks? Obviously, we've already started with a meeting with two great guys and having a plan. So, what are the next building blocks?
So I think the first important factor is, as I said to Dr. Kafie on my visit with him last, is to identify a number of producers that are prepared in terms of addressing or being able to export their product. This is another step. There's always you need to look at certain pricing structures. You need to look at the operational limitation, warning labels. All of this, what the association has been working on a domestic front, now needs to be addressed on the international front. So one of the things I'm doing also with Dr. Kafie is sharing all of the requirements from our market and our region in terms of the health requirements, the warning labels, etc. And also looking at and negotiating as well, in terms with local producers to arrive at a price which is, attractive and competitive. I also have an obligation to the consumer to be able to offer a price that is accessible, for a quality product. So this is basically our current job. This is what we're working on at the moment. I'm very happy to say that we have already put in one order with a producer, a well-known producer. I will leave it to Dr. Kafie to disclose at his convenience. But step by step, we will be, and I will be very happy to represent more and more, not just on my shelves and in my outlets, our family retail outlets, but also in the domestic market and in the regional market. So basically what I want producers to understand when you ask about the building blocks is that the adage Rome wasn't built in a day. So we want people to be very clear that we're not here to make up big slogans. We're here to work hand in hand with boutique producers, and obviously I want to work with people who are boutique producers and personally involved in their operations, and work with them to make them understand how they can basically adapt their product, if necessary, to our regional market. So that would be the next steps. In the future, I would like to be a bridge for producers, who would like to visit the region, who would like to do other kind of activities in the region, whether it be trade shows, etc. These are all things that I will be working with Dr. Kafie directly with, and that will come, again, as a long-term initiative.
So, Dr. Kafie, before I turn it over to you on your building blocks and any announcements, Glenda at Havana Cigars of Somerville said, "Love the trays, and they are selling. They're moving."
That's great. That's great, man.
So over to you, Doc.
Thank you. No, man, I'm just, it's funny. We're here on Skype, and this is fantastic. But I can't help but look at my ugly mug on the screen, and I get distracted. I'm not used to looking at myself.
I think I'm more interested in the background where Ali's at. That looks far more interesting than your background or my background. I tell you, that's a beautiful
Ali,
view.
You have a very nice bedroom.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
I'm actually in New York at the moment. This is a friend of mine's wine cava. He owns a place called Addictive Wines in Jackson Heights. So I come here whenever I'm in the U.S. You either find me in this cava or with Dr. Kafie in Miami. So,
Beautiful.
in this cava.
So,
I was going to say, if you were going to say that you were in Dr. Kafie's guest room, he obviously are giving you a different guest room than he gave me when I visited because it didn't have that in the background.
So one of the things I wanted to say is, a lot of people, when we started the Boutique Cigar Association and we did the whole press release a couple years ago, and of course, I think you and I and a few others, we have 7 board of directors. We spearheaded this. There are other brand owners, and at first there was a little bit of people wanted to know what's the purpose of the BCAA, like what's the motive? Are we just trying to highlight one brand, 2 brands, several brands? Is this Gaby, Kafie trying to exploit? Everybody has said everything, and something, since day one, I've really taken a step back, because if all boutique cigars brands fail, I fail. We're collectively part of an industry. We form a segment of the industry. And for me, it's been about the survival of our segment. Look, if you look at any other industry, look at coffee. We're in the coffee business as well. But we don't really mass roast our coffee. We're artisan roasters. We do small batch. That's what we focus on. People ask us, well, how well does your coffee move? Because we don't really market it anymore. It sells itself. That's the kind of beautiful thing about smaller companies, is we're obsessed with quality. And every other producer, I spoke to Joel Marrero today of Marrero Cigars, and we had a conversation about what's happening with the BCAA, the direction, our new partnership with the Alzayani family in Bahrain and the Gulf states. And there's several partners, even Amendola Cigars. Everybody that's kind of in our nebulas has been brought in. Nobody's going to eat first. That's the beautiful thing about the way this partnership was set up, is that what Ali wants to do and what his family's business wants to do is really identify who the players are, get to know them, find out their product lines, their price points, and really begin to pick and choose and begin that bridge to his part of the world. And I'm actually quite excited because when Ali first came down to Miami, we met, and he really wanted to, his thing was he wanted to see a local cigar factory here. And as far as I'm concerned, from my experience, with the exposure that some of these little factories get, the one that really stood out was El Titan de Bronze, which is in 8th Street, or Calle Ocho, Little Havana. And so we scheduled the trip. We went out there. We met with Sandy, beautiful, beautiful lady. And it was ironic that, here's Ali Alzayani coming all the way from Bahrain, and, his family business is truly focused on dealing with Habanos brands, which, everybody in the world respects Habanos brands. It's not up for question. And, I told Ali that, he knew the history of El Titan a little bit. He also knew that Maria Sierra worked there. Mm-hmm. And he knew her history actually better than I did. So I was actually quite fascinated. Unfortunately, during our visit, about an hour into it, Ali, we got the news along with the family at El Titan that she had passed away. Mm. So I don't know. I think, truly very young. I think she was 70 years old. The family at El Titan, they were heartbroken. I mean, they were trying to attend to our visit while at the same time, take care of some things. That was
the moment that I put the order in, in her memory.
Yeah. So, I kind of at a loss for words because the way things worked out. But for me, it was quite an honor to take Ali there. And even though he didn't get a chance to meet Maria, may she rest in peace, but he met the family that allowed her to live her American dream. And that to me is what's really special. because a lot of the countries overseas, and I think I speak also for the Gulf State region, is people are looking for new world products. I'm not going to say cigars. You know, social media has changed everything. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, it's connected the world. And no longer are people just exposed to one product from one region. So this was a good opportunity for us to really, get them exposed to El Titan de Bronze, their products, their cigars, their family. And I'll tell you what, they've got, let's say, 6 rollers. Their production is limited. But there's one thing that they do have, and it's quality. That's the one thing you can guarantee. The tobacco, the cigar, the performance, the draw. Of course, the blends, each one, to each your own. But when it comes to that level of production at that scale, I don't think there's anybody better in this town. And for me, it was great taking Ali there. Mind you, they're not a BCAA member at the present time, but we can't be selfish and only cater to us. We have to cater to our segment of producers. So
mentioning the quality, another thing is also the consistency. And that's a very big issue, for importers as well. Is that it's one thing that you have, the first few shipments of quality cigars, but does the cash flow, does the business health allow the consistency? And this is critical, especially as the volumes grow. So this is where, we are all passionate about our industry. And, but at the same time, there's the business aspect, and that is our duty towards our customer. And, they are the ones that allow our industry to thrive, their passion and interest and consumption of these products. So when we're here, this is a very important factor. It's quality versus consistency. And, we saw that with El Titan. Again, meeting with Sandy was fantastic. We, obviously on a personal level, we got along wonderfully. She's a wonderful woman, but at the same time, her involvement and knowledge of her business and industry, it demands respect. And I appreciated the time that she gave me. Being somebody that she was not personally aware of, she opened her doors to us and received us, and basically showed me what she was doing, and then and there I was convinced that we were onto something, and that was pretty much when we had decided to put in our first order and make the official announcement, to everybody, to the whole industry as a whole.
That's great. And Gaby, you had mentioned earlier, and hats off, you said the company's not part of the BCAA, but, you need to be able to reach your hand out, and it's doing the right thing. And I always believe that doing the right thing never loses its luster, and I think that's awesome. Now, Ali, I got a question for you with your experience with importing and then also having retail establishments in the Middle East. With coming here to the United States and smoking some of the boutique cigars and trying them, how do you see them fitting in those retail stores and comparing with what's available now?
Well, I think for me the product, in terms of what I have sampled and what I have viewed, is a superior product. And when I say superior, I don't mean in just the cigar itself, but an all-round product in terms of price, in terms of value for money, in terms of even the packaging. The systems are, compared to some of the volume manufacturers, are more advanced. I mean, I know very expensive cigars that do not come with internal humidification system, like a partnership with Bovida and all kind of things.
Right.
This is actually something new to me, So I would say, in terms of the value for money versus the quality being offered, it's a superior product, and I believe we have a long job ahead of us. It's not going to be an overnight thing, We need to take the time to introduce the products, to introduce the brands, develop the awareness, educate the consumer. I don't like to use the word educate, but to raise awareness, to offer the product to the consumer. If the product is not being offered, obviously by default there will be a lack of awareness. So I think that's our job initially, is to bridge the gap. But in terms of the competitiveness of the products that I have seen, and I'm looking to, develop business relations with, I would say they have a very strong competitive advantage.
Excellent.
Well,
that's great to hear.
Yeah. If you're looking for anybody to help bridge that gap, the Stogie Road can leave the U.S. and come over and help out.
We would be honored and privileged, sir. Thank you.
That would be fantastic. I want to make, Carrie, I'm sorry. I want to make a point, and it's a point and yet a question, right? Like in the U.S., it's an open business market. When it comes to brands, country of origin, heck, I think we're the country that sells the most Chinese products in the world, okay? Now, outside the U.S., me being from Honduras, born there, raised there, and having family from the Middle East as well, we have a different mentality. And, I think outside the U.S., people in general think the following. They think the best cars in the world are German. The best shoes are Italian, the best watches are Swiss, the best cigars are Cuban. So I think when Ali says, okay, we have to educate the consumers, I know you don't like to use that word, but what we're doing, and I believe that I may be correct, is that we have to kind of open their minds up to the fact that there are other options, not just the ones that they have been used to for many decades or years, So that's going to be our challenge. And I think for me, personally, I've already got the hamster wheel going is that every brand that will come up, everybody's going to get a chance to come up to bat and hit the ball, right? But every brand that comes up to bat, I think it's our responsibility, all of us, you too, Karen, and Ali, of course, it's your market. You have your finger on the pulse over there. Is to really look at the brand, the product, the blends, the packaging, even the name of the brand, and really tailor it. If certain modifications have to be made, they can be made. But look, Davidoff introduces Year of the Pig cigar for the Chinese New Year. It's specifically marketed to that part of the world. Not just Davidoff, Maya Selva, everybody does it. Even Fuente, I love Fuente. But I think for your region, we can't come out and just be like, I don't want there to be a shock factor. I want there to be a nice transition, sure. like a friendly approach to the new brands that are coming in.
Right.
Sure. Well, I think with respect to Habanos and the other brands that we've worked with, the market is shifting, and what's happening is that these volume manufacturers, are becoming niche brands. Whereas in earlier days when the taxation was less oppressive, if you'll allow me to use the word.
Sure.
But when those brands or large corporate brands were more affordable, I think that yes, it was more accessible, and for companies like ours, it was just an easy partnership because they had a product that was in demand. The history was there, the romantic aspect was there, similar to like the French wines, and we had the shelf space, and that partnership worked. But I think now we're having a kind of perfect storm situation where, because of the scrutiny and increase of taxation which is happening, and at the same time, the larger manufacturers who are scrambling to, manage these excessive overheads, which naturally has an effect on quality and consistency. And at the same time, we have an opportunity to work with boutique producers who are looking for new markets and able to satisfy that demand. Obviously not everybody, but that's our job, is to identify those that are. So I think it's the right time. It is a perfect storm in a way. And that's why we have, I've reached out to Dr. Kafie, and I said to him, obviously I want to make this an official commitment that we are here to, definitely to push this initiative forward. I think the consumers are actually, in my opinion, driving this. I've been for many years receiving multiple inquiries, about different, whether they be non-Cuban cigar brands or, boutique brands that are not necessarily, many of which I was not personally aware of. But this is part of my job, to educate myself. I've arrived on American shores, and I come here with humbleness, and obviously ready to learn and see how the industry is working here. And that's why I very much value the time and relationship with Dr. Kafie, given his network and his understanding and knowledge of what's going on here and the trends. So basically, this is our situation. That's my opinion.
I definitely think you, looking to land on the shores of the knowledge and understanding of the boutique industry, you definitely land on the right shores with Dr. Kafie. Most definitely. And
Yes.
it's you had mentioned about demand and keeping up with demand. One of the things that I've learned from Gaby and a few other guys that I've had the pleasure of meeting and getting to know in the industry is being able to grow at the rate where you can keep up with demand, but never, ever, ever suffer the quality. Never let the quality suffer. And I think sometimes, we see in this industry, and we've seen with some brands, that the demand is high, so they start trying to push out the cigars and the supplies to meet this demand, and then the quality goes down. And then the folks who are getting it really don't have a quality experience as you would. So it's being very methodical, as Doc was talking a little bit about, even when starting the BCA. The BCAA was a very methodical and well thought out plan. So for anybody who's just joined us, we are here with Dr. Gaby Kafie of the BCAA and Ali Alzayani of FAZCO, and we're discussing the Boutique Cigar Association signed the partnership with FAZCO to bring boutique cigars to the Middle East and to the North African markets. We have some folks who've been hopping on and off, and just want to make sure everybody is up to speed on what we're talking about. So, Doc, you had mentioned before, when your trip to Germany, and I know you and I had a lot of great conversations about that, and not only it's solidifying some of what you've known, but it really did kind of open up your eyes to the European market, the Middle East, and just a whole new area for cigars. Where do you see the boutique cigars that have that potential of entering the Middle East market? Where do you see that making impact, and how do you feel that's going to that's going to introduce something new?
Well, I thought I told you to only ask me yes or no questions.
Are you a doctor?
Well, you look, I'm gonna take a personal approach, and then we'll discuss the BCA.
Was that too much of a high-depth, multi-layer probing question, Doc? I'm sorry. That's my salesman cap on. I'm going to back it off a little bit. What's your favorite color?
What was part A was what? So look, first of all, I got to be realistic. The best way to be realistic is you look in the mirror. I do that every morning. I don't really like what I see, but I got to live with it, right?
Yeah.
And part of that, being realistic, and when I became a doctor, let's say when I decided I wanted to be a doctor, I realized it was a 12-year commitment just to get my diploma and be able to get my license, which I still have. Thank God, I keep it just to prove to my kids that Dad's a real doctor, you know. Mm-hmm. But when I decided to get into the cigar business, it was the same approach. I have a philosophy. It takes 3 years to introduce a brand to market. It takes 5 years to truly develop the brand. 10 years to establish yourself as a company. And it takes about 20 years for somebody to come up and say, hey, will you sign my box? Well, I did not get into the industry to sign boxes, first of all. But if you follow the trends, and I've studied everybody in the industry, from Honduras, Nicaragua, the Dominican Republic, I've studied how they started. Some of them in the kitchen, some of them in the garage, some of them, the stories are wonderful. But there comes a point where companies evolve, and my company, for example, needed to evolve. And I had two ways to go. And I'm a very rare company in that I've never been to the IPCPR, the trade show here in the U.S. I've never been to the show because we've always sold out of everything we've produced. And I don't want to go to a show when our production is limited and we're going to take on 30, 40, 50 new accounts, and then I'm going to basically not be able to supply the people that have been loyal to me from day one. So my mentality has been pick and choose your battles. I do miss out a lot not going to IPCPR. I think the exposure you get at that trade show is the best in the world. Everybody will tell you that. I think what they're doing for the cigar industry as far as defending and fighting against FDA regulations is, commendable. But in my shoes, I have to pick my battles. And when I went off to Germany, we had landed a German distributor who basically opened up the doors to enter that market. Mind you, we only had German distribution at the time. Prior to going to Germany, we were exporting to 12 countries. After the show, let's say a good 2, 3, 4 months after the show, we went from 12 countries to 25. That's beyond belief. Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, we're not working with huge companies, distributors. We're working with people that understand our production capacity, understand that there's a turnaround time for whenever they place an order. It's a 2 to 3 month turnaround because we want to make sure they get the best product we can deliver. And it kind of developed its own life. And, I love Gary. Don't burn your microphone, Gary.
I can hear the jet engine in the background.
Yes, man.
It wasn't as bad as yours, man. I thought you were taking off on a F-16 back there, Doc.
Great. But you know something? When the international market is opening its arms to us. I don't just mean our brand. There's been plenty of brands that have gone overseas and are doing very well. And I think in this day and age, every business has a global approach now. I love the U.S., of course. I'm a U.S. citizen. I'll take a bullet for this country. But my business, I've got a business with 104 people down in Honduras that are working every single day, and they want job security. My job is to give them job security. And their job is to make sure that they perform at the standards that we expect. Everybody wins. So to put all our eggs in one basket, I think is kind of foolish. to diversify. I mean, look at the situation in. You all know the situation with Nicaragua. They had an embargo against them. They couldn't export to the U.S. for I don't know how many years. I think it was over a dozen years. And a company like Joya de Nicaragua at that time said, "Oh, I guess we can't sell in the U.S." Today they're in 72 countries, and they're still very strong in the U.S. So a lot of these things happen. There's always a shift in dynamics. These countries are very volatile. I mean, look at Venezuela today. Look at Nicaragua. I mean, all these things going on impact each other. They're all in the same. I'm talking about countries that are all swimming in the same pool, politically. So I spoke to Oscar today, my right-hand man at the factory, and he's telling me that the number of Nicaraguans moving into Honduras is dumbfounding. Not just people. I'm talking cigar factory workers. There are factories that have already begun to move their equipment into Honduras. Now, people say Honduras is the most dangerous country in the world. Listen, every country is dangerous. It's funny. I'm getting messages right now from different people. I can't see. I don't have my glasses on, but I think it's regarding the show. But in this volatile marketplace, we have to diversify. And Ali, I think, he could not have come at a better time. Mm-hmm. We're facing some headwind in the U.S. Small boutique cigar companies. We don't have millions of dollars to market. We don't have, we can't go to IPCPR and set up a $100,000 booth and have 10 sales reps there to really make it worth the show. And I'm not going to go get a booth and then, they put you in the back by the toilet, And got to sit there and pray and hope everybody washed their hands on their way out so I can shake their hand, But
that could be in this sense.
Yeah, being by the bathroom is not a really bad, that's not a bad spot, Gaby. If you really think about it, everyone's got to use it.
Goes to the bathroom, right? But I'm not knocking anybody or any show or anything. I just got to be realistic. Look, I've always been proud of two things. One, I'm a debt-free company. Two, we have no business partners. So that gives us the ability to pick and choose. Now, when I got into the cigar industry, this was my second. It was like becoming reborn. I did my first thing, my first half of my life. For the second half of my life, I want to do something I can enjoy. I can work with people that I respect and I love and admire. And I want to enjoy this journey. And sometimes, it comes with a lot of hard work. But to put ourselves under pressure that is unnecessary or unrealistic for small companies like us just doesn't make sense. There's room for everybody. That's what people don't realize is there's room for everybody.
And I think, Dr. Kafie, if you will, I want to touch on, doing what you enjoy and working with people that you enjoy. And that for me is also very important. I'm also at an age where, I want to be able to have the liberty to pick and choose who I work with. And, sometimes everything can be, perfect. But if the human element is not there, if the working relationship is not there, it can be a big obstacle. So definitely, we're in this business because, first of all, it's a business, and there are a lot of people, that follow at a hobbyist level. But make no mistake, we are a company and we have a business interest. But at the same time, we're lucky enough that every day we can go to work in a business that we're very passionate about as well. So, in itself, I feel that's a success. But at the same time, it's very important to be able to choose people that, are understanding of where we want to go and are flexible in terms of feedback and, I don't want to basically be in a situation where I'm trying to get hold of people and trying to, give market feedback or customer feedback, and it's falling on deaf ears. So that's also, as, Dr. Kafie said, you want to work with people that you enjoy working with. We're building things together. It's not a one-man show, and it's not just about the bottom line. That is important, but at the same time, we want to build something that is for the next generation, at least in my family, and I'm sure Dr. Kafie feels the same. It's a legacy.
And that human interaction you speak of is so important. Doc, you had mentioned your folks at the factory down in Honduras, and I've had the pleasure of being able to FaceTime with Oscar with you at your house, and they made a beautiful hand-carved humidor for me and for the show. Just so selfless, it was great. And Doc, you talked about the thought and the vision you have of being able to introduce a brand in 3 years, and then in 5 years, the one thing I just wanted to show that I think speaks volumes is in 5 years you get this: 7 incredible brands in the market. This is the 5-year anniversary of the Kafie 1901 cigars and the San Geronimo line. This really is a testament to not only having a vision, but creating a plan and sticking to the plan and being patient. So, congratulations to you, Doc. And that's what you get.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Most definitely. And the human interaction is important, because when I started doing what I was doing was traveling around the United States and visiting cigar shops, and it is supporting the brick and mortar, the cigar shops. I know folks will shop online, and everybody has their various reasons why, whether it's taxation for their states, because each state is different here in the U.S., and some is the taxation's pretty high. But a lot of folks who have been hopping on this evening that are fans and followers of the show, I've met the majority of them in cigar shops. I always promote the cigar shops that I visit, because the 3 most important things are the location of the shop, is it accessible, the selections that they have in their humidor and the condition that they're in, and more importantly is the staff. Are they friendly? Are they helpful? And how interactive are they? And for me, the location gets you gets you there. The selection that's in their humidor will get you to buy, but the staff and the people that are in that establishment will get you to keep coming back more and more, and that is really important. I mean, that to me is my Stogie Road 3, I call them, but that is really where I've been able to make a lot of great friendships along the way. So
one thing I do want to say, we haven't discussed this yet, but I don't know if Ali knows, but the FDA regulations have killed all innovation in the cigar industry in the United States, right? Right now, if I want to introduce a new cigar, a new blend, okay, something we've never done before, we have to go through a process called substantial equivalence. It's very expensive. There's a lot of testing. So if a company like mine only sells in the U.S., that sampler that you showed, that's it. That's 7 blends. That is it, my friend. I think that's a tragedy. That's what's really killed the cigar industry in the U.S. I mean, since January 1st, how many press releases have we seen? Taxes are going up. They want to increase minimum age. They want to ban flavored cigars, which, to each their own. I'm not a flavored cigar guy, but they shouldn't be banning any products. And, of course, the hot topic now is banning online sales. 50% of all cigar sales are done online in the U.S. If this ban of cigar sales goes through online, you're going to have, last year I think 360 million cigars came into the U.S. So if half of those are not able to be sold online, all those companies are going to be attacking brick and mortar shops like there's no tomorrow, trying to get all that shelf space. So right now is a pivotal moment for companies like ours. This is why your timing couldn't be better, Ali, because number one, we need to find shelf space throughout the world. I think your region is very attractive. One thing I've noticed about Middle Eastern connoisseurs is they have refined palates. I've never met, I don't want to get into making fun of certain brands or certain cigars, But in my family,
it's okay, Gaby. It's just between us, Gaby. Go ahead, speak freely.
Look, in my family, right? In my family, my uncles. I have got 9 uncles. God rest their souls. They've all passed away, and even my cousins, my brother, even. You know, we have a Middle Eastern background from Bethlehem in Lebanon. You know. And many of the boutique brands also, if you look at Val, Dove Cigars, this is a great family. They're Armenian. I have some of his cigars. They're fantastic. And
very nice, very nice.
These guys have refined palates. You know, they have refined palates when it comes to foods, beverages, cigars, and everything else. And I don't know why, but this is just the way they are. I'm not creating theories. This is an observation. So for us to have the opportunity to now possibly even create new blends for new markets, that's really exciting. You know, trust me, the guys that we have at the factory in Honduras, they don't want to keep making the same cigar each and every day all year round. They want to experiment. They want to get new tobaccos. They want to get tobacco from new regions. And this international market, you know, yours and every other out there, it gives us the opportunity to be creative and really show the world what we can do. But yeah, so the opportunity is, definitely appreciated, Ali. We thank you from everybody at the BCA.
No, thank you. Thank you, because without you, none of this would have been possible. And, as I said, I came here not just to make statements, but also myself to learn and educate myself on the industry in the United States. You know, I have traveled around the other countries, Dominican Republic, etc., Cuba, of course. You know, I've been going since I was 16 years old. But the United States, in terms of the boutique cigar industry, was still a little bit not exactly on my radar. But, when I, again, reached out and just through following the association and, also thankfully, we have to thank social media because that has bridged a lot of gaps, but basically just building my awareness and coming out to see for myself. It's been a big realization. So I'm very excited, and I thank you. I thank you both.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. And we've had some more folks hop on, and we're here with Gaby Kafie of Kafie 1901 in San Geronimo, and the BCAA, and we're here with Ali Alzayani of FAZCO, and we're discussing.
Thanks for having me.
We're discussing the partnership that was signed that's going to bring boutique cigars into the Middle East and even into the North African market. So if anybody who's hopping on has a question that they'd like to ask, please do. We're getting a lot of great statements, a lot of folks coming through. Gaby's left. He's back again. Look at that. The check that I sent him for being a guest just finally cleared. I think that's what it was.
I'm still waiting for mine.
It's in the mail, Ali. I'll hand deliver to you over in Bahrain.
Thank you.
So, now that we've cleared the check, I do want to share something with you guys on a lighter note. After we met and we talked, Ali and I, obviously we kind of saw eye to eye with what his goals and ambitions were, and he saw where we were and what our capacity is. And obviously we saw mutual ground for being able to work together. And the next day that we met, he brought me a little gift, but this gift is for the Boutique Cigar Association. And I'll tell you what, I'm being the developer of my brands, and having worked with graphic artists and having worked with all the printers in the industry and appreciating, everything from, embossing and gold foil printing and, some of the printers are even using gold powder to really accentuate some of the features. He brought me something that, man, it actually, my kids love it as much as I do because I'm just going to show it to you guys, and I'm going to let Ali this is a gift that he brought the Boutique Cigar Association. I'm just going to go ahead
and back it up. You have to back it up a little bit, Gaby.
Yeah.
Keep backing it up. Keep
There
backing
you
it
go.
up. Keep backing it up. Keep backing it up. Boom. There you go, brother.
So let me try to get some light on this. There we go.
There
Is
you
that
go.
better?
Yeah, that's actually fit. If you back it up just a little bit, it'll fit perfect inside your little rectangle. There you go.
There. So now, at our box factory, one of the things that we do is we make dress boxes, right? Or they call them in Spanish. It's called filete, fileteado, dress boxes. And if you look at this is the actual print, an original print from Cuba. It's from the original Jose Jenner brand, and each facing, is a vista of the box, and it also includes obviously the sides.
Mm-hmm.
But I was blown away by this. Now, Ali explained to me, and I'm going to let you explain to everyone, Ali, kind of what the significance behind this is. The Jose Jenner brand, who he was, and what his methodology of producing cigars was back in the day.
Well, I mean, it was very interesting for me because, as you said in your family history and also my family, in the sense of cigars is not a natural product for our region, is that this was a man, Jose Jenner, left Spain to Cuba, and he set up one of the first cigar factories in Havana, which you'll all know the brand Hoyo del Monterrey, which is actually the brand that it later progressed to be from his factory. So what I thought was how significant, especially with regards to Dr. Kafie, the legacy of his family who migrated to a new region of the world and, established their roots. And also the tie-in of cigar, which has brought us all together. And so I thought that was something quite poignant, and I wanted him to enjoy that. So that was the reason I
It's
decided.
very appreciated. Thank you.
And
That's
I
great.
remember
It's very beautiful.
You mentioned we had a long conversation as well about the embossing and the printing process, and
That's right.
about the gold dust. And you actually taught me a few things about that. So I thought it was a significant to give you that as a gift.
It's a good. I appreciate the gift. We appreciate the gift. We're going to have it framed. We're going to put the BCAA logo on it, and we're definitely going to put it in the office. And for me, what's amazing is even going back that far, this print job is better than 90% of the print jobs on the market today. So
It's amazing.
So
It's amazing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Rob Jones just pointed out, too, and I think we talked about this before, Gabby, that Canada just banned the artwork that's placed on the box or cigar band.
That's right. That's a good point. They literally passed that last week. It's called plain packaging. So I believe now the boxes are now going to look like something like this, and it's just going to have the text of what the cigar is, which I don't know.
You think there's a way to get? Do you think they're going to get away around that by putting maybe a plain packaging around the beautiful artwork that's done on a box?
Well, what many companies have started doing, and we're actually doing it in Honduras, is they're making a cardboard box that the actual cigar box goes into.
Yeah.
But now the consumer is really forced to buy the box. No longer can you display the box open with the artwork in a store. I think the same thing is happening in Australia, New Zealand. It's taken a global effect. Now,
It's everywhere. Even in our region, there is some restrictions. So maybe not as bad as that, but it's getting there.
in the U.S., the U.S. is full of rebels, right? Everybody in the U.S. is a rebel, and I think it started with James Dean. I don't know if you guys remember James Dean, the rebel, and then what was that show we used to watch growing up? Happy Days with the Fonz, the rebel. And
Yeah.
The famous one is Jesse Jones, isn't it? The one of the famous.
Jesse Jones, maybe.
No?
Who's the oldest guy here? But what happens is being a rebel comes, you'll get attraction in the marketplace, but man, I really do think you start pissing off the federal regulators when you start doing some things that are kind of questionable. And unfortunately, our industry does not self-regulate. If you look at the craft beer industry in the U.S., it does self-regulate. If you look at artisan coffee roasters, you know, it's funny, coffee's not regulated by the FDA, but yet every coffee company has to be registered with the FDA. So our industry was kind of the last one operating, let's say, in the Wild West here in the U.S. And a lot of stuff is happening. A lot of changes are coming. I don't think anybody's going to go out of business. I think these regulations are, you know, they're going to navigate their way so that we can all continue to support our families and do what we do. But I do believe innovation is dead.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it seems like it's leading in that direction.
I think with regulators as well, you know, it's very important not to approach it from a kind of, how would you say, it's not a battle, you know, it should be a conversation. And I think, you know, especially the cigar industry, it's also similar to the wine industry. People who are not knowledgeable about cigars, they become very intimidated, and maybe sometimes don't understand the differences in terms of comparing it to other forms of smoking, whether it's cigarettes, and now you have vaping and all of that. Yeah. They like to sort of put everything under one umbrella when it comes to regulation. So I think one of the, and I know that Dr. Kafie, you know, sees this clearly. One of the jobs that not only producers, but also, again, associations and people who are sort of personalities and voices in the industry, is to, instead of trying to, you know, maneuver around regulators or, you know, battle with them, I think the conversation is very important. You appeal to people's common sense and understanding, you know. I think sometimes you can flip the situation where the regulator actually becomes a support. You know, if you say, listen, you know, let's do our best to adhere to your regulations, but we want to keep an open door policy and be transparent with you. But, you know, this is going to be tough, or maybe you can support us a little bit more here, or maybe you could speak to somebody, you know, to sort of help us smooth the path. Sometimes you'll find even a support system in the regulator itself. So I think we are going through this as well in our region. And I know that, you know, the Middle East, especially the Gulf states, look very carefully at the regulations in the United States in terms of, you know, the FDA and other organizations. And they, you know, look at their policies and how they are reacting. So I think, you know, through the association, you know, working together to have one voice and to get everybody working in the same direction, it can be a benefit to us all, not just in the domestic market in the USA, but also in international markets.
That's a great point, Ali. You know, it's in order to get on that line of, like you said, working with regulators, it's also important to be able to speak their language, you know, to be able to understand what it is they're regulating, what they're trying to do. And I think sometimes, especially what's going on here in the United States, very early on, you know, they think Dr. Gottlieb, they had laid out a few things they were looking at when it comes to the regulation and of the premium cigar industry, and I think some folks may have gotten sidetracked on the emotional side of things. You know, we talked before the artistry, the history, and when we're talking about these things and we're folks are arguing passionately about those things, that's great, but it's really not speaking the language of the person that you're dealing with. When you start speaking their language on what they're looking for and know what is important to them, and then you partner together, then it does make it a little bit easier to kind of find that common ground.
So let me rephrase what you just said, Kerry, because I want to be really blunt, okay?
I was blunt.
No. The federal regulators came out and said, we're concerned about youth access when it comes to all tobacco products. Number one. Number two, they're concerned about nicotine addiction. Not once did they ever talk about packaging, artistry, labeling, how many cigars in the box. Like right now, the way the regulations sit, if I take a 20-count box of cigars that I produce and I decide to now put 15 cigars in there, that is considered a new product that needs to get FDA approval before I can market and sell it. That is what it is. There's such a huge disconnect because what they're thinking about is, they're thinking about cigarettes because that's what they've always regulated. Is this guy trying to bring the price of the package down so that more people can buy it more frequently without really hurting their pocket? Is this going to increase smoking? But I think there's been a huge miscommunication. Number one. Number two is, look, lawsuits are a last resort. And the second you file a lawsuit, you've identified who the two enemies are. And now we're an enemy of the FDA, and the FDA is an enemy of us. And the whole opportunity for amicable conversations has been thrown out the window. I don't know. I wrote 2 letters, and I'll share this with Ali and anybody who's watching. On behalf of the Boutique Cigar Association and my company, I wrote 2 letters to the FDA Commissioner, Dr. Scott Gottlieb. One letter was an analysis of all the cigar factory owners that have passed away in the past 30 years. I believe there was a list of about 24 factory owners that all actively smoked cigars, multiple cigars each day, and the majority of them lived in third world countries where access to health care is obviously not as good as it is here in the United States. The average age of death was 88 years among these men. Heinrich Williger was one of the men. Of course, he's still alive. I believe he's 88 today. God bless him. But the point of that letter was I was demonstrating to the FDA and Dr. Scott Gottlieb that cigars don't kill people. Cigars are not addictive in a way that it causes deleterious effects for someone's health to go down, The second letter I wrote was the way we process tobacco in the cigar industry. Our focus is to eliminate all the ammonia in the tobacco. And when you do that, you bring out the flavor, the natural oils in the cigar. Now, ironically, I've always known this, but I never took the time to research it until when I wrote this letter. When you eliminate all the ammonia from the tobacco, it changes the nicotine molecule. So when there's ammonia present, the nicotine molecule is very volatile and easily absorbed by the human body. Once you eliminate the ammonia and you just leave free-standing nicotine, it goes from a highly volatile state to a salt. And ironically, that nicotine is not absorbed by the human body as easily as the nicotine that has ammonia in it. What's the first thing they do? Cigarette companies. They've actually looked. The National Institute of Health looked at cigarette companies. You know what the largest, apart from tobacco, you know what the number one chemical is that they're buying in barrels? Ammonia. They're spraying the tobacco with ammonia so that the nicotine will be more effective and cause addiction. So I think there's ways to shed some light. Go ahead.
This is what we call the difference between cigar industry and cigarette industry. We call cigarettes the nicotine delivery industry. It's not premium tobacco, So, yeah, I completely understand that.
So hopefully those letters got to the right person, and hopefully they read them. But I'm very anti-lawsuit. I think it puts us in a position where millions of dollars are spent. It's a never-ending battle. But
it is, and to piggyback on what you said, Gaby, is not only does the ammonia become a perfect vehicle or conduit for the nicotine, but then with cigarette smoking, you're inhaling the smoke, and all the studies show that when you inhale hot smoke, you're pretty much you're self-induced smoke inhalation. And then all of those other carcinogens and chemicals hit your lungs the blood comes through, the bloodstream picks it up, and it circulates throughout the body, then causes other health effects and health problems, neuropathically, cardiovascular, vascular in your extremities. So, there's
let me share one
a lot
point.
of science behind that. Not steal your thunder, doctor.
I'll share one point because my specialty was foot, ankle, and knees, and we did a lot of vascular work. And one of the things we learned in our training was that if you smoke one cigarette, it causes vasoconstriction of your peripheral blood vessels for up to 7 minutes. So now imagine that your blood vessels in your hands, your feet, away from the heart, peripheral, right? They constrict. They basically shut down. So that brings up cardiac pressure. So what happens to a chain smoker that's constantly smoking cigarettes? He's in a constant state of peripheral vascular shutdown, putting more pressure on his heart, increases, it causes cardiomegaly. My brother, I wish he could watch this. He'd probably jump in and he's a vascular
and lose everybody.
Yeah. But now, that also causes increase in blood pressure, which leads to strokes. Cigars do the exact opposite. Cigars cause vasodilation of the peripheral blood vessels. It causes your blood pressure to drop. I mean, can we just look at the science? Can we stop fighting about a warning sticker or a label on a box? Can we look at the science, please?
That's science that they knew back in the 1800s when they used to run water through a big pipe and get it smaller, so the water pressure could shoot the water out the other end at a higher velocity. I mean, that's what happens. It's just making the heart pump harder. But we digress. Gaby, there was a question that was out here. Let me see real quick. I'm sorry to scroll back. Erman Ruiz asked, can you talk to how long you have owned your business and how long was the beginning in terms of getting clients and contacts? So essentially, how long have you been in business and how long did it take for you to actually start making some contacts and making some headway?
I'd say 6 years now. First thing I did was I hopped on a plane. I went to Honduras and literally walked into the oldest cigar factory in Honduras, owned by Rolando Reyes Sr., a Cuban legend cigar maker. He was the most humble man in the world, had the worst temper in the world. But you know what? That's all he did was he was started making cigars at the age of 14 and died at the age of 89. Literally, I don't want to go into too many details, but you get the point. You just got to go. It's like starting your own business, whether if it's cigars or whatever you want to get into. You can't sit there, stick your foot in the water, and you got to jump in and then figure shit out. I'm sorry to be so blunt. I'll give you an example. When we finally tooled the first blend, took about 6 months to get the blend to where I wanted it to be. The first order came up to Miami. It landed in Miami, and my wife looks at me like, okay, what are you going to do? Well, I got in my truck, and I left for 2 weeks. And I think I must have visited about 200 shops in 2 weeks until I sold out. So, a lot of people have misconceptions about starting a business thinking, well, I need to bring in marketing people. I need to hire a sales force. I need to bring in...
Nope.
You just need to bring in yourself.
Do it yourself.
That was the one. Yeah, that's the one. Gaby and I were talking about that. Was it yesterday? And I said, the one commonality is, when you start a business and you're doing something, if someone's doing it for you or helping you out, just learn as much as you can so then you can do it. Because the more that you can do yourself, the better off you're going to be. You'll have more control over the quality of the business. But more importantly, you're not going to be in a situation where if you're relying on somebody to do something for you and they go away or something happens, you're not stuck wondering, now what do I do?
Well, I mean, these days you can find a consultant for everything, So if you are going into business with the attitude of how I can find, give some work to somebody else, are you really in business for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
So I think, it's very important to first of all, as an entrepreneur, you've got to be the bravest person in the room, you know. You're basically going into business for yourself, depending on only yourself, hoping that the market rewards you for your efforts. And very often it doesn't, you know, unfairly so. So, you know, and as an entrepreneur, especially a startup, if you're a startup, you know, the financial institutions are not there to cater towards you. Investors are not there to cater towards you. They're looking to, you know, squeeze you for every, you know, share or equity that they can get out of you. So it's really, you're between a rock and a hard place, and you have to be very courageous. My philosophy is never give up. Keep going, you know, find a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. And,
definitely.
you know, in life, it takes those sort of adversities to understand your weight in salt. Who are you? You know, it forms character. So, you know, I completely agree. If you have a passion or an interest and you want to make a go of it, then you cut the cord and you go for it, you know, and 3 sheets to the wind, you go.
Now, Gaby, I wanted to ask you to do me a favor. We've had a lot of folks hopping on. We've had a lot of boutique cigar owners hop on, and Felix Mesa just hopped on. And I know I don't speak Spanish, so maybe you can speak to what we're talking about, and Ali, to kind of bring some of the folks who have been hopping on, specifically Felix, who speak Spanish.
So you want me to speak in Spanish, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that'd be great.
Felix Mesa, mi hermano, ¿cómo estás? Me cuentan que estás aquí viendo el programa hoy en la noche. Te voy a explicar bien corto lo que estamos hablando con el señor Ali Alzayani, que él vino de...
Encantado, señor Felix.
Sí, él también habla español. Él es de los países árabes, específicamente Bahrein y los estados del Golfo, que son básicamente 7 países en el Medio Oriente y también en la costa norte de África. Y Ali llegó a Miami la semana pasada, se reunió conmigo porque él está interesado en llegar a conocer dueños de ciertas marcas clasificadas como boutique, productores pequeños, así como nosotros, de calidad, consistencia. Y la verdad que me ha informado Ali que él está buscando, y la compañía de él, de la familia de él, en Bahrein.
Mi familia es 42 años en el negocio de tabaco puro cubano. Mi compañía es una compañía distribuidor de tabaco en el Golfo Árabe. Ahora es tiempo interesante para mí. Con el señor Dr. Kafie en Estados Unidos, con el negocios de puro en Estados Unidos.
Así sí, muy bien, Ali, gracias. Lo que Ali vino...
Mi español no es perfecto, no hay muchas personas en mi país, yo practicar español con ellos.
Ali, toma más vino, se te va a poner mejor el español. Bueno, Felix, te aprecio, hermano, vamos a estar en contacto. Pero sí, él vino aquí a buscar marcas que él puede llevar de regreso con él. No va a ser este proceso no va a ser muy rápido, va a ser un proceso de meses y de años en desarrollar el mercado del Medio Oriente con las marcas nuevas que nosotros producimos. Así que espero que esta información ha sido buena y muchas gracias por ver el programa. Te apreciamos mucho, te queremos.
Encantado también.
Gracias, Felix.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate that. Obviously, I speak Spanish the worst of the three.
That's great.
I gave say that I got a 7th grader and an 8th grader in the house.
Well, you should hear me after some rum. My Spanish drastically improves. So I have to apologize tonight. I'm drinking wine.
It's okay.
That's funny. Well, gentlemen, would you like to leave everybody with a final thought or a statement? Ali, this is your first time on the show. I greatly appreciate you coming on. This has been a great conversation. It's been an honor and a privilege, and I'm going to give you the floor first.
Well, first of all, actually, it's me who's honored and privileged. Number one, because, again, this is a completely new market for me, and it's because of Dr. Kafie and yourself and your time that I'm able to really come to terms and educate myself, and just basically establish contacts and a network here. So thank you, first of all. In terms of my sort of final thoughts and conclusions, I'd just like to say that, first of all, we're here to reach out, to get to know the producers, the people, the families who are investing their time and capital into, making wonderful products that we can hopefully market in our regions. We're a region with a sophisticated consumer base and becoming more and more aware of American cigars, especially the boutique brands, as I said. So yes, I mean, we'd like to be the go-to partners for all of these brands, and I just want to say that I look forward to meeting each and every one of you, hopefully at the right time on an individual one-to-one basis. And definitely, obviously doing some business, but also celebrating our mutual passion. And thank you again. I'd just like to stress that the reason why I'm not smoking a cigar is because in New York, the rules are that we cannot smoke indoors. So I said I had to substitute with a glass of wine. But hopefully next time I'll be enjoying one of Dr. Kafie's beautiful cigars, or one of the other member cigars, or a boutique cigar, if you will.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank
Ali.
you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Dr. Gaby Kafie, you need no introduction.
Well, I just want to everything Ali. Look, it was a pleasure to host him here in Miami.
Thank you again for that.
My family, as well as myself, truly enjoyed the time that we spent together, getting to know each other, talking business, really, it wasn't so much business, it was the industry and how our industry and his industry can merge. So I appreciate the time, your dedication, and your interest in what we do. Thank you. Carrie, thank you for the platform. Once again, I think this is a great show in order to help shed some light on what's going on, especially with the recent press release that occurred. Now, what we're going to do to follow up with the press release is, as Ali has, chosen the first company, El Titan de Bronze, to place his first order with. I've already talked to some people that we're going to be working on something, and a new announcement coming out tomorrow, kind of to, pass the baton to our new boutique partners at El Titan de Bronze. And Sandy, we love you very much. We thank you for your time, your hospitality, your family.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you, Sandy.
And yeah,
and your family.
Yeah, our condolences to you and for the loss of Maria Sierra. Truly, I'm at a loss for words, but we share in the mourning with you. Also, while at El Titan de Bronze, we got a chance to hang out with Willie Herrera, Ernesto Padilla. Those guys are awesome. We had a good time with them there. But
fantastic cigar makers, yes.
Yeah, fantastic cigar makers. Great personalities, great guys, great blenders. Yeah. That's what we're all about. And in the next couple of days, we're going to launch a new section on the Boutique Cigar Association website, the BCAA.org. Mind you guys, in the past 2 years, this has been a completely non-for-profit organization. We've run this with no money. This has been money out of our pockets. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add a new section where boutique cigar company and brand owners can go in there, can sign up, can basically fill out the questionnaire, what brands they own, where they produce, and, if they're interested and in what regions they're interested, because this is the Boutique Cigar Association. This is step one. And Ali and I we kind of share similar thoughts in that we would like to establish an international chapter for the Boutique Cigar Association. Not only to have representation here in the U.S. when it comes to FDA regulations, but also internationally for let's just say business opportunities that may develop in different regions of the world, beginning with the Gulf states and Bahrain. So maybe I spoke too soon, but there are plans. This is nothing that's going to happen overnight. But, we first launched the BCAA 2.5 years ago, and everybody can see where we're at. Every company that is a member is compliant with all FDA regulations. Everybody has registered. Everyone's doing great, and I couldn't be happier. It's the last thing I want to hear is that one of my friends or partners out there in the industry is no longer in business. That's the last thing I want to hear. So
and that's quite an accomplishment. No, the pleasure is all mine, guys. The honor was mine. Just to wrap it up, you're right. The BCAA and you talk about the new section of the BCAA. You'll be able to find the link to the BCAA.org. I'll post it on the Facebook page, but it's also on my website on the VSRCigarFam.com, and we're going to make sure that we get that information out for folks who are interested. So, Ali, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.
It was a pleasure.
Very interesting conversation.
Dr. Kafie, it's always a pleasure, my man. It's good seeing you. Thank you for your time and all the wisdom, and I'm looking forward to this partnership and relationship to grow. And Ali, you said it best when you said you're looking forward to be able to meet and smoke some cigars with people and start this partnership. But more importantly, I think this is going to be an opportunity to really grow some great bonds and friendships and relationships where everyone will benefit from it.
At the end of the day, that's all you have.
Yes, sir. So here at the Viajante Stogie Road Show for Dr. Gaby and Ali, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us, and everybody have a great and wonderful evening.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Good night. Thank you. Thank you to the viewers.